from where the first community health center was ever built. And there are people in the room who helped to build that 50 years ago last year. I was reminded of that when we made our decision to have the meeting here, because this is about community and the government working together, and to build those assets and those community resources that are so well needed. And we're also, unfortunately, within walking distance to neighborhoods where there are concentrations of Superfund sites and EPA regulated pollution emitters, a concentration not seen anywhere else in our city. And part of our goal here today is to build up our community assets and those protective factors in our community that would help mitigate the harm that has been done for far too long. And it has taken a confluence of many factors to bring us to this point. And it's as though, since some of us have been at this for a while, it's as though we've been readying ourselves to seize the moment when opportunities would arise that are potentially transformative. And that has meant an organized community, a mayor and an administration who share the values of racial equity and social justice, and the federal government that is putting real resources into play. And Mayor Tim Keller has been acting with a sense of urgency from day one of his administration, not waiting for the county, not waiting for the state or federal government, and has focused on racial equity, climate resilience, sustainability since day one, and has us in a position to be the first city that we know of in the nation that is adopting the principles and the goals set in President Biden's Justice 40 initiative. By signing this executive order today, he's directing department directors like myself to work with community in ways that we haven't seen enough of to make good things happen for our planet and for the people who need it the most. So please help me welcome Mayor Tim Keller.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many members of our community. And when I say our community, it's broad and deep. We have folks here. Almost every face that I see and recognize has a long story. Some of us stories from time immemorial. Some of us stories from dozens of generations back, and some of us who just moved here. And I wish I could tell all of your stories today, but I know what we're doing today is a reflection of each one of your stories, no matter what category you fit in. And I also know we have a lot of folks from out of town, which is kind of rare for us. So I do want to welcome our guests from South Carolina and Georgia and Nebraska and Washington, D.C.
Bienvenidos.
Now, I think for us at this moment, really what I want to do with you is share essentially just two stories. And those of you who've known me over the years, I've always tried, emphasis on the word try, because I know I don't always get it right. I've always tried to listen and to learn and then to act. And the first time this really became clear to me was when I was actually running for my first office up in the International District as a state senator, someone who was born and raised here. But like a lot of people, don't necessarily know everything about our community and all the stories in our community. And I actually was taken aside by Michelle and some of her colleagues, and a guy named Enrique Cardiel, who I think many of you know. And is he here? So we all remember this well, but they were very nice to me. They were like, Tim, why don't you come for a walk with us, like in our neighborhood? Let's just talk and walk and look around this part of town. So I did, and I said, look, and I've been coming all over Albuquerque for my whole life, et cetera, et cetera. But it's true, I never literally walked the streets of Central and Zuni and put myself in the shoes of somebody maybe pushing a stroller which I was like 5 years later, and or somebody trying to carry groceries, or somebody with a disability. And as we walked, of course, we noticed the built environment in what is one of our most underinvested neighborhoods, our top neighborhood in terms of percentage of communities of color. And you see the sidewalks that are completely unusable right along Route 66. You see the fact that there's no streetlights. You see the fact that there's no trees, right? You see the built environment, the institutional racism that has been in our community and all over America for decades and decades. That's what I learned on that walk. And it was eye-opening for me because I never forgot it. And even in that office, when I was the state senator, I used to try and give capital outlay to try and fix some of this stuff. Look, it just wasn't making a difference. And one of the biggest reasons why I ran for this job was to try and reverse those institutional investments in our communities of color and our underserved neighborhoods. Now, those of you who may have noticed, we've tried at the city level. We've done the best that we can. We've moved about $200 million before there was the term J40 into communities of color. That's 3 new community centers. It's hundreds of new streetlights. It's repaving, prioritizing repaving all the roads. It's prioritizing tree planting in neighborhoods like this neighborhood right here. So we've shifted that from other areas of town that frankly didn't need it, right? These are areas that should have always had those investments. And so those are some of the examples of ways in which the city, we tried to lead, but it's been hard. Luckily, I want to give city council credit. We put equity, literally the word equity, into the actual plan for how we divide up capital and investment in the city of Albuquerque. And we did that 5 years ago. So when I think about that walk, you also see the impacts, of course, the connection to environmental justice. And as Michelle alluded to, no surprise to anyone in this room, the same neighborhoods that have been underinvested, the same neighborhoods where we have the highest poverty rate, the same neighborhoods that are historically communities of color, also have the worst challenges when it comes to whether it's pollution or whether it's environmental stress. And of course, that leads to this notion that your zip code determines more about your future life than anything else statistically. So for us, first off, that is a terrible thing, right? Because you can't really control your zip code in many ways. But it's also an opportunity, and to me, that's what this is all about. We can actually fix that for the next generation. So today, we are going to lead the way wonderfully across America, which is something we don't always do. And so I want to close with the last story, which is the story of Idioro. And of course, Richard Moore was there. You're going to hear from some of our community folks in just a minute. But I put money into that project as a state senator, and I just kind of always liked it. I mean, for all sorts of reasons. So I just show up with my kids to check it out because I was glad it was finally happening. But lo and behold, I met some of the advocates who are here today, some of the groups who work on J40. I would tell you, I didn't even know what J40 was. Richard starts talking to me about it, and then we connect with our city team. And in less than a year, let's say roughly about 6 months, we've been able to put this together. And so that is a credit, again, to all of you. All I had to do was show up and listen. So I want to thank you for giving me the power and the ideas to then act on. That's what this is about. Today is your action. It is our community's action that I'm just fortunate to be able to sign into executive order. So to all the community members who helped put this together, even our folks from out of town who helped make this real, and also to our city team, there are tons of them here, and it's never lost on me. I am a reflection of them, not the other way around. And so I'm grateful. We have a city team. The minute I floated this idea, they were like, let's talk about it. Let's get together. Let's work on this. Let's figure out how to make it real. Those were almost the first words out of every one of our directors and our officers who worked on this. And so thank you to our city folks also for being part of our team at the city of Albuquerque. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Michelle, and we will sign this at the close of our program. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
We are very honored to have with us our next speaker, Dr. Jelon White Newsom, Senior Director for Environmental Justice with the White House Council on Environmental Quality. Dr. White Newsom is a native of Detroit and has tackled environmental challenges from a number of positions, including grassroots advocacy, philanthropy, state government, private industry, and academia. And her focus on transforming communities through people-centered solutions makes her an excellent ally for us on our team. Joining from Washington, D.C., please help me welcome Dr. Dwight Easley.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
How are you? You can do better than that. How are you?
Oh, yeah.
So I want to start out by acknowledging the original caretakers of this land, the 19 Pueblos, the Apache, and the Navajo Nation. And because it is, because it is Black History Month, I'm also going to acknowledge my ancestry, realizing that I wouldn't be here and being able to do anything that I'm doing without those folks that came before me. And I think that's super important. But so this is my first time in New Mexico. And I will tell you one thing, as a Detroit girl, I was like, it's a little bit cold here. And even in that sense, I came in on a plane yesterday and was greeted with beautiful sunshine, the Sandia Peaks, and I just said, that's all right. This is a wonderful place and I'm excited to be here. So again, you know, it has just been wonderful just in the day and a half to fellowship and talk with folks yesterday from the city, from the community, and just really feel a spirit and an energy that I just love. I had an opportunity, and thank you, Michelle, yesterday for a brief windshield tour just to see a little bit of your community, to understand your passions, your values, your culture, and I look forward to learning more. So Mayor Keller, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for bringing us together today as we all work to advance environmental justice. And Mr. Richard Moore, I am in your better half, which I don't know where she is. Right there. I'm gonna honor her too. I am so honored to work with you as co-chair of the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council, and just thank you for even extending the invitation for me to share in this space with you. Michelle, state and local government leaders, the philanthropic community that's represented here, and most importantly, the people and the advocates that made this happen. I tell you, my heartfelt congratulations and excitement for all the work that you have done to get to this point, and all the work that you're going to do to, again, continue to benefit the communities that deserve it and need it the most. I tell you, within his first week in office, President Biden, our boss, created the Justice 40 Initiative. And it was fundamentally created to shift the way we do business. To think about all of the reshaping of federal programs that put dollars out there, and how we do that to ensure those benefits actually land in the communities that matter. Whether it's clean energy, affordable housing, clean water, you name it. That is the crux of the Justice 40 Initiative. And so when I think about this goal of 40% of the overall benefits going to the places that deserve it the most, what you're doing here is the landscape, is the catapult, is the platform for making that really happen. So there are, in case you don't know, over 450 federal programs that are part of the Justice 40 Initiative. And New Mexico has already started to see some of that. I'll just point out a couple. The U.S. Department of Interior's Tribal Climate Resilience Adaptation Program has invested about $250,000 in, I believe, one of the pebbles of Santa Ana. There's also been, with the U.S. Department of Transportation's RAISE program, about $11.4 million that's invested again in the Albuquerque Rail Trail. So just a couple of examples of what's happening. But I'm sure many of you know, if you've worked in government, if you've been an advocate, that it takes more than just dollars and cents in the form of government support to move environmental justice. So it's about making sure that those benefits actually reach communities. And that is why we are so focused to embedding environmental justice into the foundation and the DNA and the fabric of the federal government. So again, we are so grateful that Albuquerque is stepping up and a partner in our shared efforts to advance equity and environmental justice at every level of government. And so, City of Albuquerque, do you realize that you are raising the bar for local leadership? You are raising the bar. And I want you to take again, as far as we're aware, you are the first city to do something like this. So your commitment is not only an inspiration to the folks in this room, but it's going to be an inspiration to others. And so again, I want to thank you, Mayor Keller, for your leadership. I want to thank you and Dr. Grego for spending a little bit of time with me in DC a couple weeks ago. And again, to all the people in this room, I'm ready to see what comes next. So much appreciation. You all be well, be safe, and take care of yourselves.
Yes, you're welcome to come right on in. Join the community. So we were very lucky to have a little extra time yesterday to have a roundtable dialogue with Dr. White Newsom and community members and department directors and deputy directors, all of whom have dedicated their life's work to addressing inequity, climate, and environmental justice. And today, Dr. White Newsom will meet more of the community members who are doing this work. We'll have a reception after the signing event. We invited members of the New Mexico Justice 40 Coalition, Nuevo Mexico Prospera Coalition, Power for New Mexico Coalition, the New Mexico Dream Team, the Wilderness Society, OLE New Mexico, United South Broadway Corporation, Native American Voters Alliance, the Energy Foundation, Mountain View Neighborhood Coalition, Isleta Pueblo, and others. But the person who has spent the most time with Dr. White Newsom is our next speaker, Richard Moore. Richard is known all over the country for his role in shaping the environmental justice movement over decades. He is the co-founder of Los Jardines Institute, which is just over the river from here, and Richard served on the National Environmental Justice Advisory Council and is now co-chair of the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council, which provides advice and recommendations to the Council on Environmental Quality and the White House Environmental Justice Interagency Council. Basically tell them what we need to do. Yes. On how to address current and historical injustices. And you, as the mayor said, initiated this dialogue with the administration to have us take up this challenge and opportunity. So please help me welcome Richard Moore.
Thank you, Michelle. You know, for some reason, I'm a little nervous today. I don't know. I think maybe it's because people said, don't do the long one, Richard, do the short one. I wanted to, and again, thank Michelle and thank the mayor, and thank all our sisters and brothers that are present in this room today. As I was coming over the bridge, as Michelle said, because our farm is on the other side of the railroad tracks, the other side of the river. I was thinking about this community of San Jose and South Broadway, and Michelle made some references to a couple of things that just keep me and I think keep us engaged consistently in the work that we're doing. One, as you know, on one side of the street here is the community of San Jose. And then on the other side of the street is the community of South Broadway. And this historical building that we're presently in, as I was remembering when we were moving to park in the parking lot there, I don't know if many of you remember Walter Baca. And Walter Baca was an artist. This facility was founded from the community, from the bottom up, from the historical moment that it was founded. And there was a mural that used to be out here that Walter actually painted. And then I remembered as I was pulling in and coming down the street, I remember our children, our young sisters and brothers from the East San Jose Elementary School. And I remember if you came down Broadway at some point and you were driving this way, then you would see our young children running down the street, out of the street, not on the street, but on the sidewalk, running to this facility. And there's some people that we can never forget, and our elders have consistently reminded us over and over again. Never forget where we come from. Always remember whose shoulders we stand on, and always give back to others what's been given to us.
Bravo.
I just want to make reference because to a couple of those individuals, there's a very long list of those people. And one, for some of you, you may remember Mrs. Dorn and Vanjie Quintana. And you knew you would come into this facility, it was a very vibrant facility. This was the hub, this was the meeting place. This was the border where African American community and the Chicana community came together. And that we had hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of meetings in this facility in the 60s and the 70s. And I have to give reference, as Michelle stated, to the first health clinic, community-run health clinic that was founded and located in the South Broadway community. And many of you may remember that history, the Bobby Garcia Memorial Clinic. And you may remember Bobby Garcia, who was a young Chicano student at the University of New Mexico, and that he was found dead in the mountains. And so I say that, sisters and brothers, because let's always remember whose shoulders we stand on, and always give respect to those that have given up their lives to make it possible to be here today. In all honesty, it almost brings tears to my eyes. And I say that because just seeing you all and knowing the many that couldn't be here today, Jean Gallen, for example, from the Southwest Organizing Project. You all know the role that SWAP has played for many, many years. We could go on and on and on and on with our sisters and brothers. But I want to do, and I want to keep it short, is to say this, is that thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the signing of this executive order. And you all know, and it was stated, that Dr. J stated how, in fact, this particular moment came about, the Justice 40 initiative, and what the president and the vice president and many others in the administration made it possible for the Justice 40 initiative. But I also want to say at the end of the day is that those of you in this room and those that are not in this room with us right now are the true founders of Justice 40 and the true founders of the $60 billion, the most highly resourced federal agencies and so on, $60 billion that has been made possible by this administration. Now the challenge is, and we know this, okay? We've experienced this for many, many years. So now the challenge is to make sure that those resources that are coming down, now let's not forget whose money we're talking about, okay? When we talk about money and resources, and some say at the end of the day, all those folks want is a handout. Ain't no handout in Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever it may be. That's our money, sisters and brothers. That's the blood, sweat, and tears of our people that have worked in rural communities, that work in urban cities, and those that work in those fields, those farm workers that make the food possible that we're going to be sharing with each other this afternoon.
Yes.
So I want to say that is quite an honor to be here. And you all know at the end of the day that anything that we've done, whether it's Los Sardinas Institute or whoever it may be, would not be possible without you all. Because there's nothing in Richard Moore's life, I'm a twin, for those that want to know, I'm a Gemini, which really makes it worse. Sometimes I said, and I said it just different places, you are meeting the Gemini on this side, you do not really want to experience that other Gemini. I looked in the mirror one day and I scared myself. So I switched over. So Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank you and Michelle and the staff from the city, and Dr. J for coming in from Washington, and also our guests that were mentioned here from the Regenesis Institute. And you know Regenesis has been here, and the introductions to some of our sisters and brothers from Regenesis, the Regenesis team will meet again this afternoon or after this for the reception. So let's cry, let's laugh, let's celebrate, and let's get to work for our people. It's all about our children, and it's about our people. So thank you very much, sisters and brothers.
our next speaker, I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the City of Albuquerque department directors and deputy directors and staff who are here today, and those of whom we will be working with to implement this executive order. So we have the Departments of Environmental Health, the Office of Sustainability, Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency, Parks and Rec, Transit, my Department of Equity and Inclusion. We'll all be investing our time and capacity to really make some things happen. So with that, let me invite up Michael Guerrero. He is the Sustainable Economic Policy Advisor for the Center for Civic Policy, and part of Nuevo Mexico Prospera Coalition.
Thank you, Michelle. Wait, I'm nervous too. Wow, this is like, I got all suited up and everything. But I'll get suited up for this occasion. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm here basically to give thanks and congratulations to a lot of people. I came to New Mexico in 1987 as an intern with the Southwest Organizing Project, and SWAP had already started a campaign in the sawmill community around a particle board factory that was polluting the neighborhood, the air, and the groundwater. So one of my first tasks was to knock on doors and talk to residents about how that was going to get cleaned up. And SWAP was doing great organizing, pulled together a community advisory committee that worked on that. It was a successful campaign where we got cleanup of the water and air pollution control equipment. So that was one of the first campaigns, probably one of the first environmental justice campaigns in the state. And then working down the valley, there was also the Superfund sites that are here in the community. I remember the Environment Department saying that you could take a canister and drop it down into the water table, which was probably about 5 feet at that time, pull it back up, and you could pour that into your car and it would run. And then further down, this is one of the first tours that I got in the community where Richard drove me around the Mountain View community. And at that time, they thought they discovered natural glycerin in the groundwater. They definitely had high levels of nitrates that were suspected to be coming from the military base from Kirtland up the hill. And that led us on a long journey of finding out many toxins and pollution that was coming from our military bases as well. So this area is an environmental justice community. It is the definition of environmental justice community. And South Broadway Cultural Center has been at the heart, as Richard mentioned. There have been many environmental justice activities that we've organized here, so just really want to appreciate the staff and Vanja Quintana, all the people that have over the years made this possible. So I also want to congratulate the Justice 40 Coalition because of the tremendous work. This obviously would not have happened if it were not a community-based movement. And it's a culmination of generations of organizing and movement building by people throughout the country on the front lines of environmental pollution and economic inequality. Richard's been at the forefront, as we've talked about, of this work since communities across the U.S. made environmental and economic justice a powerful national movement. We weren't even talking about environmental justice back in 1987. We were talking about things like toxic racism, what was happening in Warren County, North Carolina, 100% of the landfills in Houston being located in black communities. So people were trying to figure it out and discovering that this was a trend nationally, and certainly it was happening in the Southwest. I also definitely want to thank Dr. Jerome White Newsom. You heard from Michelle the different perspectives that she brings to this work, and she's the perfect person for us to have in the White House as a champion for us there. Several national networks, coalitions, and members of New Mexico's congressional delegation also fought hard for the Build Back Better agenda that resulted in the IRA and the bipartisan infrastructure law that can have a tremendous impact on our communities to enjoy the clean energy, healthier air, and water and jobs to build a new clean energy future. And it's not surprising that Mayor Keller was willing to step out front and make Justice 40 the city of Albuquerque the first city to do this initiative on Justice 40. So Mayor Keller, just really want to thank you because you're continuing to create a legacy of vision, of equity for future generations here in Albuquerque. So thank you very much. And of course to Michelle Melendez, the whole team at the Office of Equity and Inclusion, Eric Bodego, and all the other city staff that was involved in making this a reality. So applying for federal grants is not easy. And we tried it at SWAP, we got some grants, and I think we at the end of the day, Richard and I would like to look at each other and say, are we spending more of our staff time and money applying for this grant than we're actually going to get out of it? And that's been the experience. This is why Justice 40 is so important. This is why this initiative is so important. Communities that need it the most need to have the resources and the vehicles to move that money to our communities, and that's what this is about. So really appreciate the leadership of the White House and Mayor Keller to make that a reality, and look forward to seeing this executive order realize its mission over the next few years. So thank you all.
So this Justice 40 executive order that the mayor is about to sign has a primary goal of establishing a Justice 40 Oversight Coordinating Council. And our goal, and I'll be a co-chair with Richard of that council, is to prepare and implement a 5-year City of Albuquerque Justice 40 Equitable and Just Administration Plan. And for that, we'll be appointing, the mayor will be appointing 7 members of this commission. And we'll be accepting nominations through the end of February. And in the press release, it'll describe exactly how we receive those nominations. But I think as soon as this is signed, we need to get to work. We're going to set a meeting date in March. And so with no further ado, let's get to the signing.
Okay, so I think what we'll do to try and celebrate this as best we can, we're going to kind of push stuff a little bit forward. Whoever wants to come up and stand with us for this signing, we know there's going to be this many people here, so we have 4 pens. So, you know, the official sort of signing pens. But if others have been involved, certainly Richard or Doctor, come on up and we'll kind of give us 1 second. Okay, we got lots of room, so come on out, folks. Our guests from out of town, all the community groups are interested. All right, okay. You know, it's fitting we're doing this in our town after all, you know, all our history, our scars, but also our social justice victories. So we're glad to celebrate this together.
Oh boy.
Ambidextrous. Both hands. My skills. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mayor. That's the mayor tip right there. All right. So I'm going to start here. We did. We got some good souvenirs. I know how many letters in my name, you know, might have to add the certified other family names in there. All right, now, what's today's date? Help me out. All right, nice. There we go. All right, I think you got them all. 23. All right, congratulations, Albuquerque. So great to hear. Definitely.